Today we're digging into the equipment that you want for the melee build on the Occultist in Pathfinder. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. And like I said, we are digging into the equipment for this particular Occultist build. And I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty every single last possible useful bit of equipment for you. That's just impossible to do given the wide range of different campaigns and opponents and challenges you'll end up having to overcome. So you'll need to customize a little bit and just kind of assess what's going on within the game. But we can still cover some of the core pieces of equipment that are going to be useful for you for this particular build across most every kind of game and setting you could be facing. So to that end, we're going to start off with your most important piece of equipment because so much is going to be wrapped up in it, and that is your weapon. And for that end, we have the Elven Branched Spear. This will give you a 10-foot reach, 1d8 points of damage, and a critical multiplier of a ×3. Only crits on a 20, but when you do crit, it's gonna really hurt. This weapon also works with weapon finesse, and attacks of opportunity provoked from movement gain a +2 bonus to hit, which will help round out that relatively lower attack bonus that you get. You also want to get the Agile enchantment put on this weapon. It counts as a +1 bonus against your maximum enchantment total for any piece of equipment, and will allow you to use your dexterity modifier instead of your strength for doing damage. It doesn't let you do the strength and a half bonus rule that two-handed weapons normally get, but even still, this makes your dexterity that much more valuable and definitely keeps you interested in keeping it pumped up, so that way you increase your chances of hitting, doing damage, initiative, armor, etc., etc. Also important to note that other enchantments that you may want to get on this weapon, well, there's going to be a certain amount of flexibility in there because you may not always know what you're going to be facing, but your transmutation abilities allow you to expend some power and mimic the effects of different enchantments. So your Holy, your Ghost Touch, all of those different effects. Those you can replicate as needed for specific encounters. So you will have some flexibility there, and same thing for whatever your weapon is made out of. You don't necessarily need to get a mithril or an adamantine or whatever kind of specialized blade for the spearhead. Your transmutation abilities as an occultist will let you mimic different materials, so you should be covered there. Going on from there, from your weapon, which is also your transmutation implement, keep in mind, so again, very important piece of equipment, we move on to considering picking up a heavy shield. This will give you a +2 bonus to your armor class, a -2 armor check penalty against your skills, but this will still give you a decent boost to your armor class. And when you get it enchanted and make a magical shield, you want to get the animated enchantment for this, which counts as a +2 bonus. And when you activate the animated enchantment, this will allow the shield to move about and cover you as if you're wielding it, and it will provide all of its bonuses, both mundane and magical, for 4 rounds before dropping. You can still catch it before those rounds end and then reactivate it, but just kind of go with what the situation dictates at the time. This may be a little bit of a later pickup, especially once you have opponents that are going to be hitting you a little bit more regularly, if they're tough enough to make it through the lethal minefields you'll be laying out. But the piece of equipment that you definitely want is your armor, and that's the Breastplate. This will give you a +6 bonus to your armor class, a -4 armor check penalty, and it does reduce your speed down to 20 feet. So this one you definitely want to consider getting made out of mithril when you're able to. And you're going to want at least some moderate fortification enchantment on this armor. This counts as a +3 bonus, and it gives you a 50% chance of negating critical hits and sneak attacks, which is huge for preserving your hit points, and a 50-50 chance isn't bad at all. You may also consider adding the buoyant enchantment if your campaign is taking place on or near water. It's only going to cost 2,000 gold pieces, so it's not going to count the enchantment limit that most gear faces, and it will give you at least a kind of a fighting chance if you're ever knocked into the water and need to swim to safety, since we're low strength and not putting a whole lot of points into anything related to swim. And then after that, this one is wish list armor, but this is definitely something you want to snap up the moment that you have access to it, and that's celestial armor. This gives you a +8 bonus to your armor class, a -2 penalty to your armor check, and also it lets you keep your speed of 30 feet. It's a +3 armor, it counts as light and can be worn under your clothes without being obvious, and is comfortable enough to wear through sleeping, and it allows you to fly, as per the fly spell. It will cost you a pretty penny though, at 22,400 gold pieces. It's not the most expensive piece of equipment you could possibly buy, but it is significant. So, and it's also a question of if you're even able to find it for purchase. More than likely, this may end up being a little bit of loot for you, and you'll need to jockey with the rest of the team to pick it up, because it is that valuable. And then from there, we come on to equipment that's going to be more useful across all kinds of builds and character classes, but still, it's stuff that you want to get. And start off with, we have the Cloak of Resistance. It'll give you anywhere from a +1 or up to a +5 resistance bonus to your Fortitude, Reflex, and Will saves, and will cost anywhere between 1,000 to 25,000 gold pieces if you're aiming for that +5 bonus there. But it's invaluable and very useful. And even more useful to you than that is the Headband of Vast Intelligence. This will give you a +2 or +4 or +6 enhancement bonus to your intelligence. And it will also have one skill associated with it per +2 bonus. So if you get that +6, you get 3 skills, with a number of ranks equal to the number of hit dice that you have. So if you're level 15, you get 15 skill points in those associated skills. Just to note though, those skill points do not stack with skill points you already have. I'd say you default to using whichever is the higher value in that instance. And those bonuses are granted to you after you've worn the headband for 24 hours, and will cost you either 4,000 gold pieces, 16,000 gold pieces, or 36,000 gold pieces. And going on from there, we have the Belt of Physical Might. +2, +4, or +6 enhancement bonus to 2 of your physical stats, chosen when the belt is created. You want Dexterity and Constitution. Dexterity, because, well, that's your hit, damage, armor class, initiative, reflex saves, on and on and on. And Constitution, well, that's your Fortitude saves and your hit points, and those hit points mean you stay alive longer. So, get Dexterity and Constitution, and it will cost you 5,000 gold pieces, 20,000 gold pieces, or 45,000 gold pieces. Definitely very spendy, assuming that you can buy it and don't just pick it up as loot from somewhere. And then going on after that, we have the metamagic rods. And metamagic rods are something I don't really talk about super often, but this is definitely worth mentioning. You want the extend metamagic rod, because what this does for you is get you more mileage out of your spells. Up to 3 spells durations are doubled. It doesn't apply to instant effects, concentration spells, or permanent spells, and will cost 5,500 gold pieces. But for spells like Leaden Blades, Haste, Fly, Invisibility, doubling all of those durations will be incredibly useful, especially something like Leaden Blades, which bumps up your 1d8 spear damage up to, I believe, 2d6, because it's the next size category up. That will be a huge damage output, and for one casting, you essentially get to have it on yourself twice for the durations being doubled. So that's awesome, incredibly useful there. Definitely have one. And you're going to need somewhere to store that, all the rest of this equipment in fact. For that, I recommend to you the Handy Haversack, useful for any adventurer. The central pouch will hold up to 80 pounds of material, like a bag of holding will. The side pouches hold up to 20 pounds on each side, and any item you reach for in the pack will automatically be on top within easy draw distance and will not provoke attacks of opportunity, though they will still require a move action to draw out. Not provoking attacks of opportunity is useful. Reduce the number of times that the enemy can punch you. Please do that. Save your precious hit points. And comparatively affordable to a lot of the rest of this gear at only 2,000 gold pieces. But as I said, this is not all of the gear that's possible here for you. You still have a myriad number of other options, like runestones of power, which are essentially like pearls of power for restoring spells to spontaneous spellcasters, which the Occultist is. You also have stuff like dream catchers, which are relatively inexpensive and protect you from spells like nightmare, things that affect you while you're sleeping and the like. So having that within 3 feet of you will protect you from all of those just automatically. It really just doesn't fail unless specific circumstances dictate, but again, that just depends on the campaign. So this is the list of things that I think will be incredibly useful to any Occultist build, specifically in this instance the melee build. What do you think of this list? Is there anything that I have left out that you can possibly conceive of, or things that you would switch out or just want to add on top of all of this? Go on down into the comments and let me know down below. And if you liked today's episode, go and hit the like button or click dislike if you did not. Certainly, I'd be happy to have your feedback and work to improve the channel further because, well, that's the only way to really improve, is to get feedback and let me know if I'm actually doing anything right. I like to think that I am. But with that said, we're going to wrap it up here. If you have not already subscribed, go on down and do so. We'd love to have you here. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.